It's dark, it's raining, and in the distance, the neon sign glows with Bates Motel. It's more than a sign, it's a fateful turn. A psycho-themed village display needs a Bates Motel sign, and I'm going to show you how to make one. If you search for pictures of the Bates Motel sign online, you'll see a lot of variety in shape and color. I rewatched this scene over and over and sketched out the sign, and then I finally found a clear picture of it. This will serve as my template. I copy and pasted the image into PowerPoint, enlarged it, and started forming individual shapes that would make up the entire shape of the sign. The closest font I could find was Arial Rounded MT. So once the shape and fonts were scaled against each other, I saved the slide as a PNG. I then inserted the PNG image into a new slide several times and resized all of them. I then printed out, placed in front of the house, and selected the best size. I then threw it into Photoshop, selected a darker shade of brown, and painted the sign with a blotchy paintbrush just to give it a more weathered, corroded, rusty effect. I put this image back into PowerPoint and copy and pasted 4 versions, along with a short bar that would serve as the no vacancy sign, and as well as a long bar, and this would serve as the middle portion of the sign. Once I printed, I'm cutting out the shapes. I'll place 2 back to back to serve as the front of the sign, and 2 back to back to serve as the back of the sign. There was a little bit of overhang, so I just trimmed that off. I'm folding the long bar along the edges in a pentagon shape, and then I'm going to glue it down. Once that glue is dry, I'm going to go back and apply glue along the sides and in the corners just to help strengthen it. Then I flipped it over a few times. Once I glued the top down, I'm going to continue flipping it over back and forth, moving my weight around just to make sure that all the sides connect. Of course, I could have printed out the Bates Motel text on the sign, and then I would have been done at this point, but I really wanted the sign to have a more realistic, more 3D effect. So I measured the sign and cut out the letters with my Silhouette paper cutter. And here, I'm coloring the edges to remove the white of the cardstock. I'm going to add strips of brown cardstock to the back of the letters to raise them 1/8 inch off the sign. This really did take a lot more precision and time than I anticipated, and there has to be an easier way, but this was all I could think of at the time. Jury's still out if it was worth it. I wanted the letters to have that curved neon shape on the top of them, so I put a coat of wood glue on the top to help it round out. Once that dried, I painted each letter with pearl paint to give it a shiny sheen. I then placed all of the letters on top of the sign and began straightening them out. When working with letters, I always start gluing from the middle and work out. I intended to glue down the no vacancy letters on this small brown bar, but I was so done. So I just went back to PowerPoint, cut out another bar, and then etched it. It looks a little different, but I'm totally cool with that. For the sign's poles, I'm using coffee stir sticks, which actually really come in handy, much more than you would think in villaging. Once glued into place, I'm propping the legs up with scrap wood pieces, just to make sure that they're going to be straight. Now for the no vacancy bar, I'm going to tack it down into place, and then once it's dry, I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to glue the heck out of the back. Welcome to Bates Motel.